Okay, morning everyone. I've had a couple of failed attempts there at going live on a live stream. Yesterday especially, I was in the car trying to do a live stream and we had no reception at all, so it's cutting in and out. And hang on, what have we got here? YouTube app is going crazy. It wants me to take a thumbnail picture. That's what it's telling me, but we're already live for 30 seconds. The YouTube app here is really messing up with me, which is part of why I just had two failed attempts at going live. Anyway, I'm going to waffle a little bit until I get somebody that's actually watching live. Normally, oh, there we go. Somebody is actually live. That's rather handy. But today, I thought I'd have a chat about export and about electric cars and test driving electric cars. Because I had a really good experience yesterday and it brought it back to me that I enjoy testing cars and reviewing electric cars. Right, 6 people live. Thank you very much. If somebody could leave me a comment, let me know if the audio works. This is the first time I've been using this tablet and hopefully this microphone is working. So please let me know that it is actually working. Otherwise, I'll have to stop and try again. But yeah, I want to talk about two things today. The electric car testing experience I just had. I went over to Listers in Boston and there we go. Audio is working perfectly. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I went over to Boston Listers and they're a bit naughty and a bit cheeky actually, because they invited me over for a test drive, but they offered an afternoon tea. So of course Susan said yes, 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 and we went off for an afternoon tea basically, and the test drive was sort of second. But the dealer knew me and they knew I like minis, so they lined up actually 3 cars for me to test: the Mini E, the Mini Electric SE, and the Mini Countryman Sport. Which I'd written off. But anyway, I don't want to talk about the review because I'm going to do that sort of separately. I was on a bit of a mission yesterday that there's a lot of videos out there about the Mini Electric and the new one, and I don't like those videos. I think they're doing the old Mini a disservice by saying the new one's much better, and Robert Llewellyn's video especially about it really boiled my blood. So I'm going to do a bit of a rant video about that because I want to get that off my chest, but today's not about that. Anyway, today there's 2 things: export and the test driving the cars. And yeah, the experience was so good test driving the cars, it made me think, should I be doing more of it? But it's dangerous because if you go testing these cars, then they're all new and they're new technology and they're typically better than the old ones. So it makes you want that new shiny thing. And if I want that new shiny thing, then I'm back into, oh, should we change our car? It becomes a very expensive thing going off and test driving these things, because I'm not doing it as a business. I'm not doing it just to review on the channel. I tend to review cars that I'm interested in. And the purpose of me reviewing and looking at the Mini Electric yesterday and the Mini Countryman is because we're actually interested potentially in the Mini Aceman, the one that's in the middle. So it's a 5-door, it's slightly longer, it's slightly taller than the Mini Electric. It's a bit more like a Mini Countryman, which if you follow the channel, you know Susan and I have always really, really wanted. But it's not as big and bulbous an SUV as the Countryman. So that intrigued us. So that's why we're testing those 2 electric minis to see what they're like. And we've seen the really small one, we've seen the really big one, and we're now waiting. It's another month and a bit before the dealership actually gets hold of an Aceman. And we're going to go back for a test drive with that. But the good thing to be able to say about, I want to give Boston Listers Mini a really big up for how they treat customers. I don't know if you remember, if you're looking at cars a few years ago, but back in 2018, 2019, you go and test an electric car and they used to be able to hand the keys to you and say, take it for a day, take it for 2 days. You know, they were so keen to get you in the cars and for you to get used to them. They would let you have them for longer. And then there seemed to be not a lot available, and you could hardly get one off the driveway of a dealership without the dealer sort of saying, you know, you've had your 5 minutes, hop it, we want somebody else to test it. So you couldn't really get a proper test drive. We seem to be back in the situation where they're keen to give us test drives for a decent period of time. So Boston Listers, not only did they treat us to an afternoon tea and testing 3 cars in a single day while they were doing a recall on my Mini, they've already offered I can have what I like for longer. and they've talked about getting me in touch with Mini UK, the press people, to see whether, if I want to do something a bit more than just testing it for my own purposes, whether I can get hold of a press car to be able to do that. So yeah, it's the two sides of things. I'm looking at testing these cars because I'm really interested in them, and I'll just say one thing about it that I found fascinating. When you look at these new cars and the new technology, and there's always something that intrigues you and makes you want to have the new shiny thing. But I was really impressed to see parking assistant on the Mini, on how it's improved, because I've now had a couple of Minis that have had parking assistant, so you can drive alongside a parking space and it detects the parking space and it'll park for you. All sounds easy, doesn't it? I've never used it. I've tried it a couple of times and it didn't seem to quite work and register the parking space. So I've never actually used the parking assistant. So it's a useless bit of technology, really. I'm sure some people have figured out how to do it, but if it's not, I always look at it, if it's not intuitive for me to use, and I just like to look at things, use them, and if they're not obvious, then you should be reading a manual just to work out how to park a car. But the new parking assistant on the Mini was really, really good, and it did something I didn't expect. Instead of parking your car, it got you out of the parking space. So if you drive in a wiggly place in a car park and park in a corner and you have to park forwards, which I never normally do, I always reverse in so you can drive out easily. But if you have to, or you did, then you can just press this parking assistant and basically take your hands off the wheel, press the accelerator, and it remembers where you went, and it uses the cameras as well to navigate you out, reverses you out from where you are safely. And then once you're out, you can stop and off you go again. And I was really impressed at how simple it was, the single button press, and how effective it was, and how it integrated on the screen and showed you what was going on. So yeah, it was a lovely day to experience some good cars and some good technology and get back into the feel for new cars, new technology. What can I tell you about it? Because whenever I test a car for myself, I'm always thinking, well, what about this and what about that, and how does it compare, and how does it compare to my existing car? So testing the Mini electrics when I'm already a Mini electric owner is a very good review for me to do, to be able to say categorically from my point of view, is the new Mini better than the old one? Is it more efficient than the old one? Is it more comfortable than the old one? All of those sort of things. And I can get into some really good detail, because I find so many review videos that just say, oh, it's brilliant, it's just like a hot hatch, oh, wee, isn't it awesome? And I don't know, people that treat you like kids when you're about to spend 30, 40, 50,000 on a car, surely you want a bit of professionalism and a bit of detail. Admittedly, even if it's just opinion-based detail, at least you can align with that person and say, yeah, I like what they think, and I understand what they think, wanting from a car. Those that just do the happy clappy and just tell you all the things that the manufacturer have got listed on their bit of sheet of paper and they've had the car for 20 minutes sort of thing, it bugs the heck of me. Oh, I've got some comments coming through. What does that say? Vector e-bike. Hi, mate. Yeah, I'm glad you love the channel. Thank you so much. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream as well. So I thought today I'll just come online and chat to a few people and just share what I've been doing yesterday and how I was thinking. It's nice sometimes to do these videos and you get it off your chest. You download from what you had yesterday. Morning, mate. Add 1989. So there you go. Test drives. I'm going to be doing some more now because I'm interested in the Mini side of things, and we'll see how that goes as to whether I start testing other cars. The only other one that's on my radar that intrigues me is the Ioniq 6. Is it really as efficient as they say, or is it only that efficient if you're driving on motorways because of its slipperiness? I'd like to do my efficiency test around the Norfolk country roads and stuff and see how efficient these cars really are. Some toasty bread. Morning, Nigel. Thanks, mate. Good morning to you too. Sadly, I haven't brought a coffee out or a glass of orange juice, so I can't stay out here forever because I'll die of thirst not having a coffee. Anyway, so there you go. Test drives. I'm back in the saddle, should we say, on test drives, enjoying it, analysing the differences, and I'll give you a little bit of a teaser, I suppose, for what I experienced yesterday. I got in one car and it wasn't as good as I was expecting, and it's a no for me. And I got in another car And for once, I just sat there silent. I couldn't think of something to say, and I was taking in the experience, almost in awe of it. I really didn't expect it to be as good as it was. And yeah, then the price scared me as well when I found out how much it was. So it's probably a good reason why it's that good. But yeah, I can't wait to be able to share some of the details of what I actually tested and how good it really was, because it's scary. It's scary how expensive new cars are, and then it's scary how nice they are. Anyway, I just took Susan into the city today. She's gone in for a haircut, and I drove the e-Soul in. It gives you another reminder about the difference between some of these cars. Driving the e-Soul, it's not the most comfortable. It's soft and it's squidgy and it just does the job. You know, it's comfy, but it's not super comfy. There's no dynamic feeling to the steering. It's quite soft, but it's very effective and it's very easy to drive and it's very pleasurable to drive. So it's like the Kona and the e-Niro and the Soul, all of those cars, they're just great at what they do, but they're not brilliantly engaging. They're just good cars and they're very efficient. So it's nice to see that contrast between this shiny thing that drives exceptionally well and appeals to my senses. But is it worth spending 40 or 50,000 pounds on that car when we just spent 17 on the Soul? And it does the job really well with a 300-mile range and great efficiency. So there's so much that the Soul does better than all these cars that are 40 or 50,000. But it just doesn't appeal to the senses quite as much. So I've got that temptation about the shiny thing going on again, where I know common sense says keep the car you got. It's the most sensible thing to do. Anyway, more test drives to come and more of my agony about what should we do, what shan't we do, those sort of things. But I think the thing that's going to crop up in the future is, at the moment, we've got a car that suits Susan brilliantly, and we've got a car that suits me brilliantly. One's really engaging and fun to drive, and we don't go that far in it. But when we do, it's still fun anyway. That's the Mini. And the e-Soul is just the workman. That takes Susan to all her dog events, and that's the mile eater. That's the comfort one, the big range, very simple to drive. So we've got a perfect combination of the two cars. Maybe one day we'll go down to one. And when we do, what would that be? Is there something out there that would give me my driving engagement that I like, but also be good for Susan? But then we're back into the thing about, is a new car right for Susan? Because she pretty much abuses cars, really. She likes to not bother about them and just leave all her junk lying around. And she doesn't treat them as this pristine new shiny thing and keep it as new as long as she can, in the same way that I do. So I don't know. We've got lots to think about. Anyway, the other thing I was going to talk about was export. I tried yesterday and the live stream failed. But I was talking to Trevor. Trevor comments on here sometimes, and he's become a bit of a mate. He lives quite close by. And he was saying that Octopus Energy on the business side of things have dropped the export rate down to 8p now. So that's worth a discussion. 15p is what it was paying, and 15p is what it's paying for residential customers on fixed export now for me. And that's twice what I was paying for import. 7.5p import, which is now dropped with a new price change down to 7p import. But if the export drops from 15p to 8p, that's such a significant change. Half a p reduction on what I'm bringing in, but half, not half a pence, half of the entire price going down on what they're going to pay me. So if that's the case, then clearly that fixed export tariff isn't something that Octopus want to encourage people to have. It's not working for them. And in some respects, I think that's right. It makes sense. You can see what Octopus are doing. More of what their tariffs are about smart tariffs and doing things at the right time, giving Octopus the opportunity to earn money from assisting the grid in consuming more when it needs more consumption and not consuming as much when it needs less consumption on the grid. So they're making money off those situations. So smart tariffs that encourage the right behavior helps the grid, but it also helps Octopus Energy earn money through the schemes that they can participate in. And then they pass that on to us with low cheap rate energy, like the 7p we get with Octopus Intelligent Go. But it seems as though, from my experience of looking at Flux and Agile and Go and Intelligent, all these tariffs, and now the export ones, that there isn't a combination of tariffs yet that's perfect for a solar, EV, and battery owner. That I'm finding Octopus Go was brilliant for charging the electric car, but it wasn't great for necessarily the grid when things changed and the cheap rate period needed to change. So Intelligent Go is a better product, and Intelligent Go has 6 hours of cheap rate energy rather than 4. So Intelligent Go suits EV owners better than Go, and it's priced better as well. So that's the ultimate car EV tariff to be on, in my opinion. But when you've got export, the ultimate was fixed 15 pence, because that was the most expensive, and sort of a I don't care attitude. I'm just exporting as much as I like. It meant that I didn't consume any of my solar energy, and I'm just very relaxed about that. I'm just consuming what I want to consume in the early hours of the morning. Octopus are very happy with that. I'm very happy with that. I'm paying 7.5p, and for every kilowatt hour that I'm consuming on the grid at 7.5p, I know I'm not consuming it on solar, and therefore I'm exporting it and making a profit. So it's working really well. It's a very, very relaxed way of working. If that continued, no doubt I'd probably stay like that, because unless I wanted to change tariffs just to experience them and report what they were like. But it's certainly the most comfortable and easy set of tariffs to be on. But if they're going to start to change the tariffs because they don't want that behavior, they don't want me exporting at off-peak times, they only want me exporting from the battery at on-peak times. Oh, there are some more comments. Yeah, I have to scroll. You notice how many people do live streams, and because they don't do it regularly, they're not familiar with how the system works. And now they all disappear. This is awful. Did you ask, or did they communicate? No, this is just coming from a mate who said that the business side has changed, and they've reduced it. So they haven't announced the pricing for the residential yet. My tariff for the fixed 15p ends in September. So if they change it in October, I might get away with another year at the fixed rate of 15 pence. But if they change it before my renewal date, then obviously I get what I get. Let's see if I missed any other comments there. Yeah, so for you, Peter, you've got in just before the renewal, so well done. You've got another year at 15 pence, which is excellent. So, for those of us that have got renewals coming up later, we don't know whether we're going to get it or whether we're not. The 2024 Kona, no, I'm not interested in it. The drivetrain doesn't give as good efficiency, and I don't really like the boxy shape as much. It doesn't really do that much for me. I haven't tested it, but there's nothing lighting it up for me on paper. And no, I'm not going to drive an e-tron, I don't think, ever, unless it's the GT. But I have to win the premium bonds for that. So, all right, I mustn't look at too many comments now because I'll forget my train of thought and where I actually was. So it's what are we going to do, and how's it going to change things? And it seems to be something that's missing in the market to me, because if you've got the solar and battery situation, then and Octopus want to be intelligent and smart about it, what they really want, they want me to be able to export at peak times and not export during the rest of the time. So what they'd like me to do is self-consume solar during the off-peak time of the day, but then export during the peak times. So that's like using agile export or using Flux. But with Flux, they weren't offering a cheap rate and enough hours of cheap rate overnight. So for me, the sweet spot, the perfect product for someone with solar batteries and EVs hasn't come out yet, because it's a combination of either agile or Flux, but Intelligent Go as well. So you want the flexibility of the fixed, not the flexibility, you want the fixed low rate incoming grid energy. So I want the Octopus Intelligent Go for charging the car, but then I want the export tariff side of things so that I can export at peak times only and make more money. So that suits me for making more money, but also suit Octopus, because then we're assisting with the grid. I'm not exporting at a bad time. I'm not giving it away when the grid doesn't need it. I'm giving it away mostly when it's profitable to do it, but also when it's peak times when the grid needs it. So Octopus, through changing behaviors and doing that, will actually gain money through their normal systems of doing that. And I would gain more money as well. So it looks like that combination of tariffs just isn't quite out there yet. I'm very tempted with Agile for an export, because I think you can have Octopus, Intelligent, Go, and Agile export. I think. I'm not quite sure. So I've got to do some research to find out all of the options. But if I go to Flux, I can't keep Intelligent Go. You're then stuck on Flux with something else. Someone's in a BMW X1, Martin. Oh, right. Hi, Martin. I haven't heard from you for ages, mate. Since the Alcona days. Yeah. Yeah, these high-performance cars, they are a little bit scary, aren't they? All-wheel drive. All these people that are moving on to all-wheel drive, and it's great, isn't it? But it saps the efficiency. I have this real problem that I'd love an all-wheel drive. I'd love a more technical car with more performance. But when it loses the efficiency and it doesn't do 5 miles per kilowatt hour or even more, something in me just says, what am I doing? And I can't help myself but have an efficient car as well. So that's why the Ioniq 6 might really, really appeal to me, because it might be that it has the efficiency that I love, but also has the performance, the higher charging, the tech. That could be a sweet spot for me. And yeah, there'll be loads of people that'll be saying, get a Tesla, get a Tesla. You know, it does all of those things. And yeah. But I find them a bit boring. And the Model Y, for example, I don't like how it drives. I test drove the Model Y, and yet I never put my video footage out. I always had it, and I never edited it and put it out. And I didn't like the idea of being critical about the Model Y because everyone loved it so much. But I didn't like the submarine feeling of the suspension. It would dip down on a bump and then bounce up, and then there'd be some rebound going along afterwards. I really didn't like the suspension in it. It might be that I needed to test the performance model that had stiffer suspension. That might have been actually a better model for me. So no, I'm not keen on the Teslas, to be honest. Susan wouldn't get on with the Saloon. I'd be all right, but they're getting too low for us as we get older. Yeah, that's a sad thing. But the Saloon doesn't suit her, so that's no good to us at all. And the Model Y we didn't like anyway. Anyway, forget. You keep distracting me. Sorry about that. I was talking about export tariffs. So I don't think the right one is out there, and I'm hoping that Octopus recognize that and see that there is a group of people that have batteries and solar, because that's more common, isn't it, to have battery and solar now. So what we need is a tariff that helps us follow a better way of exporting our energy than just a fixed export tariff, but it rewards us sufficiently without taking away from the benefits of being able to charge a car overnight, cheap rate for enough hours. So we need that better combination. Or maybe what's going to happen is the energy prices are going to come down, the tariffs aren't going to become as flexible, and we're just going to have to take what's available and be stuck with it. You know, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully Octopus is going to keep exploring and keep trying new and different things. And for me, I don't like the intelligent side of things. I don't like a system telling me what to do and how to do it and taking full control, because these intelligent systems never have enough options for me to configure it in a way that I'm happy to use. So I like to take over control. Even with intelligent now, I'm still in control. I leave the Zappi in stop mode so that Octopus don't have control of it, and I only turn it on when I want to. And that means that if they wanted to charge my car at 9 o'clock in the evening, they can't, because it's in stop mode. And I don't want my car charging at 9 o'clock in the evening, because it will drain the battery. I want to be in control of how I do things, and I don't want the battery to drain like that, because I'm pre-planning how to use my battery capacity. In the winter, that battery capacity is there for the heating that will be on in the evening. Anyway, all those complicated things. So I think we're seeing something change here. If it drops to 8 pence, it's going to drop that fixed export, and then we're going to be into what's next. And the choices will be whatever other tariff is out there that gives us the export income. So that'd be considering Agile and Flux and whatever else they might come up with, if they come up with something, or going back to self-consumption. And if I'm importing for 7 pence and I'm exporting for 8 pence, it makes no sense whatsoever to charge the electric car and heat my hot water and charge the home storage battery for 7 pence and pay that 7 pence and then gain that money back again by exporting the solar. There's no profit in it anymore, and therefore it all becomes charging from the grid when it suits you because you want the car charged at that time, or charging it from solar to self-consume. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Will I or won't I get a renewal of my tariff in time? And I sort of kicked myself because I told myself around, when was it? I think it was about February, March time. I was thinking I wanted to go and try the agile export. So I wanted to swap tariffs and come off my fixed export tariff and go on to a different export tariff, try Flux or try agile. And it was agile export that I was interested in. And then try it for a couple of months and then come back. And then because I was coming back, I could start the new year at 15 pence again before they cut the price. So I was actually thinking about swapping out and swapping in to do it. But I was so happy with the tariff that I was on, I'd never got around to doing it. Anyway, now it's a case of waiting for the date when they do change the tariff. And do you get the 15p or don't you? So if I get 15p again, I'll probably stay as I am. If I don't get the 15p and it does drop to something like 8, then it's that decision, self-consumption or something new. But I hope OCTOPUS listen. They're not going to be listening to this video, but I hope they listen to people in the market and they look at what's missing. And there is like this hidden missing link on export payments, something where it's paying enough money to be profitable to encourage us to export at the right time to suit OCTOPUS and to suit their schemes on them making some money. But it needs to be combined with enough hours of cheap rate on the import side to give us enough battery to be able to export later. So yeah, I'm hoping we see a better combination of export options going with OCTOPUS Intelligent. That's what I'm hoping for. And that's what I was trying to share with you all yesterday while I was driving along in the Mini trying to go for these test drives. I tried to do a live stream yesterday and the reception was so bad. It's just cutting in and cutting out all of the time. So here we go. So I have to press the message button and look at live chat again. Otherwise it doesn't pop out. Is this pre-recorded? No, I'm live. I'm live, mate. Who's that? Kadeem always wins. Well, I don't know. I often win, so I don't think you always win, mate. Darren, I got this from my DNA. We're excited to introduce our flexibility services to complement your new devices now to adjust your energy use in line with the demands. Yeah, these take control systems. Yeah, there are some out there, aren't there? And like I say, I'm not a fan of them unless they truly work and suit your needs. What I don't like the idea of is like Tesla Powerwalls and systems that take control of your system but take too much of your battery. If they can restrict it and say you can set a percentage of how much they can play with and how much they can use in their automated systems and the time ranges as well, if you could have some adjustment inside that, I think I'd be more happy to go with some of these automated systems. My system here with the Victron battery inverter is very easy to communicate with, and in theory I could give control to another company to manage it on my behalf, and it wouldn't be very difficult for them to program. So the Victron system could be one of the ones like Myenergi that give you the intelligent flux, I think that's the term for it, the tariff, where they basically pay you a much higher export rate because you're giving them the privilege of being able to export your energy when it suits them, when the market's right for them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I would like to see, I guess what I'm looking for is like the export tariff of 15 pence. I'm looking for one where it pays the 15 pence at the 2 peaks in the day, where the peaks are. There's a peak in the morning, isn't there? And there's a peak in the afternoon. If they paid you a higher rate in those peak times to export and a lesser one in the others, it would encourage you to self-consume in the time when you're not making as much money and export as much as you can in the others. And they don't quite do that yet, mixing it with the import. So I'm really hoping for that. Right, what else can I tell you? Well, I'm really tempted to go into some more about the test drive, but that does really need to be a separate video because it's quite long and I've been online 30 minutes already. So you tell me, should I give you the detail now of what I discovered in my test drives, or should I not? or should we talk some more about tariffs? Give me some messages now in the comments. Tell me what you'd like to discuss with me now, and I'll stay online and talk to you about what you'd like. Do what, Kadeem? Do what? Tell you about the test drives? What do you want to talk about? Test drives or tariffs? Some more test drives. Okay. Anyone else want to talk about the new Mini Electrics and what I actually thought? Or should I do my rant now? Should I get it out so that it's hidden amongst this live stream and no one else is going to know but you guys? What I really, really don't like about Robert Llewellyn and his reviews. I'm waiting for other videos. Test drive separate videos. Okay, Gene. Now you're confusing me. Half of you want me to talk about the test drives and do my rant, and half of you want to talk about the tariffs. Now, what am I supposed to do? Do both, I suppose. Well, if you've got time, have a listen. Oh, go on then. Let's try and do a bit of both. Yeah, so what boils my blood? And yeah, let's start with the caveat. I'm a Mini owner. I like my Mini. My Mini Electric is lovely. I bought it because it's brilliant, and I've now had 2 of them. So with that caveat, and I've obviously got a bit of a bias because I like it. I watched Robert Llewellyn's video about so it's a fully charged one, about the Mini Electric, the new one. And he says the new one's better than the old one because it's built on a ground up EV platform. And that's it. That's all he says as to why it's better. And then he then says the interior is better on the new one, but doesn't tell me why it's better. And it boils my blood because he's one of the founders. He's one of the early people that have started doing the YouTube videos about EVs. He's inspired us all, including myself. So for me to get the feeling watching his videos, especially this one about the Mini, that it's almost like a fake news EV video. It's that sort of video that boils your blood and you get angry about it. There he is basically just going, happy clappy, this new Mini is wonderful, it's great, it's better than the old one. And he's ticking all the boxes, saying all the things on the marketing sheet, but telling you nothing about why. Nothing at all. So it's not that he's just not giving details. He's not even giving his opinion as to why he thought it was better. And the thing that really boils my blood even more is the people that think a ground up EV platform is better than another one. It does not make it a better car. You have to remember, what is a ground up EV platform really all about? And it's about making money. It's about the manufacturer making more money from a more flexible platform for how they can implement things. It does not guarantee a better car. What we'll find is that typically when cars transfer from a mixed platform to a ground up built EV platform, battery chemistry has changed, and therefore they're lighter, they're smaller, they're more flexible, they're flat across the car, and therefore you can get more kilowatt hours. So what you tend to get is an EV drivetrain upgrade at the same time as this platform, but it does not mean it's a better car. So Robert Llewellyn telling people in his video that this new Mini is better than the old one, I think is really poor, and he shouldn't do those sort of videos, and he certainly shouldn't do it without at least giving an opinion why. Because if you can engage with him and understand what he's saying and you understand his opinions, then it would make some sense. But he didn't, and it peed me off. And yeah, it was like watching fake news, and that's not right because it's Robert Llewellyn and Fully Charged, and they're good people and they're into the right things about electric cars, but also saying every new electric car is wonderful. Oh, it's great, you know, and then reading off the spec sheet from the manufacturers. It's not the way to do things. So I went out with my test drive all angry about his videos, wanting to prove him wrong. So I've done my research. Is it better or is it not? And the new Mini Electric is not better than the new one. And yeah, remember at the start, I'm a little bit biased, but I will tell you why I don't think the new one is better. Firstly, the new Mini is heavier. It's 100 kilograms heavier. And what are they going to do with that weight? Well, I investigated the weight distribution of the old battery system and the new one, and the new Mini versus the old. and the weight distribution is shifted about 3 or 4% further forward on the front axle. So it's not as close to 50-50 weight distribution anymore. It's slightly less. So we're now into how's it going to handle that weight, extra weight, differently, and the different geometry of what goes on. If you actually look at the battery of the old Mini, it runs as a slimline battery along the center of the car where the drivetrain transmission tunnel would be, and then goes into a T at the front where the engine would be. So the weight distribution is matched very much with what the car was previously. So you get a very natural, very good configuration for driving. The new battery is different. The new battery is a flat battery that goes underneath, and it's spread more evenly across the width of the car as well as the length of the car. But there's a significant problem with it. In my Mini, when I'm driving and my feet are extended on the clutch, the brake and the accelerator, I'm very comfortable, and the floor is flat. In my Mini, the F56 style, as you bring your feet back and you want to rest them, say you're on cruise control, so your knee then comes towards the steering wheel and your foot comes more towards the base of the seat, it's still comfortable. It's flat. Can you believe in this new ground up EV platform, it's not flat in the new Mini. There is a ridge. The seat sits higher in the new Mini, and that's to accommodate the batteries underneath. Well, isn't that the wrong way around? Shouldn't EV platforms that are built from the ground up be better at those things? But oh, no, 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 no. You sit higher on the seat in the new Mini because there are batteries underneath you. And as you bring your foot off the accelerator and brake and bring it back towards the steering wheel, there is a ridge, there is a step, and it is less comfortable in the new Mini because of that. So it goes completely against the whole thing that a ground up EV platform makes the car better. So Robert Llewellyn, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Why didn't you actually tell people the actual facts? Because if you have tested them both, you should know that. Anyway, so let's get on and let's go a bit pessimistic here. And if I was going to be a bit of a downer on these Minis, and it's a bit cruel of me because I really enjoyed the test drives, but if I was going to go on a downer of it, let's compare the specs of the battery. The new Mini has a 36.6 kilowatt hour battery usable capacity. The old Mini has 29.8. If the new Mini is 20% less efficient than the old one, then basically they've got the same usable battery size. Yeah, let that sink. So the new car, if it's less efficient by a certain level of, say, 20%, then it won't have any more range than the old one. So how efficient is it compared to the other one? Well, did we find that out in Mr. Llewellyn's video? No, we didn't. Well, I went on a road trip to Boston yesterday, and we got 5.4 miles per kilowatt hour in the old Mini getting there. And it's perfect conditions. It's perfect weather. It was 25, 26 degrees. The car had some good heat soak. We didn't leave first thing in the morning. It was perfect conditions. And we drove normally on A roads and B roads. And I think we're doing 55 a fair amount of the time. But yeah, we didn't get to 60 and 65. You don't round Norfolk and some of those Lincolnshire roads. Anyway, 5.4 miles per kilowatt hour. Repeating that style of driving and that type of driving for the test drive that we did, which was about 20 miles long for the test drive, we got 4.8. So that's 0.6 less. That's more than 10%. So probably a 12% efficiency loss. I think that's reasonably representative. So it's not 20%, it's 12%. And if you take that number off, then I think the basic Mini with the smaller battery size, the new Mini, will give you 16 miles more range than the old one. Because I comfortably get 140 to 150 miles range out of the old Mini in summer, and 110, 120 in winter. So you're going to get 16 in summer more, even less difference in winter. From this ground up EV platform that you're paying more money for with a bigger battery that you think is going to give you better range because the marketing spec tells you you're going to get 180 something miles or more out of it. It's just not true. So is the new Mini better than the old one? Well, here's something else as well. When I bought my old Minis, I'll keep calling them the old ones, the original ones, 2020 and 2022, I asked Mini and all the Mini forums as well, but I asked officially, how should I charge the car? Because I was used to the Hyundai Kona, where they definitely encourage 80/20 charging and only charge to 100% once a month. And now Mini were insistent the BMS and the battery buffers that they have top and bottom work absolutely fine. So you don't have to worry about it. You can charge to 100% as often as you like. In fact, every day for the commuting, and that's what they do. And the forums and the fans of Minis would go, they'd just go mad at you if you mentioned that you should look after your lithium batteries by doing 80/20 charging, and tell you that absolutely not, this Mini works fine and you don't have to, the system caters for it. So you can use all of your 28.9 kilowatt hours. Are you working out where I'm going with this? So we've already talked about the 36.6 kilowatt hour battery might not be any better than 16 miles better range because it's got less efficiency, 12% or less. But now Mini are starting to tell people that you should do 80/20 charging on their new Minis. The battery chemistry's changed. And obviously the people that make the batteries is now different, and they're giving different instructions. So if you're a good boy and girl and you follow the manufacturer's instructions and do 80/20 charging, then most of your use of the car, you're only ever going to use 60% of the battery. Oh dear. So the basic battery in the new Mini, 36.6 kilowatt hours, sounds like an improvement, but with how you're now supposed to use it and its less efficiency, it has less range than the old one. Yeah, not good. So basically, if you're going to be buying the new Mini, you're probably going to be looking at the bigger battery. And the bigger battery is 49 kilowatt hours usable, 49.2, I believe. So take 12% off that for less efficiency, and then take 60% off. Sorry, just looking at Cracker and Flinty in the garden. I've got two dogs in the garden. They're wandering around enjoying themselves. So basically, even with the big battery, you're not going to get the range you think because of how you're going to use it compared to the old one. So that leaves me with the last thing. Interior. Is the interior of the new Mini better than the old one, Robert? No, it's not. The old one has piano black, soft plastics and leather, and the seats are just exceptionally comfortable, most comfortable seats I've ever had. And that flat area for my feet in the driving position works extremely well. In the new Mini, basically they're using recycled plastic bottles, and it really feels like it. The dashboard, which is a nicer shape and better windscreen position, I like that. But the material is really scratchy. For the dashboard, that's fine, because how often do you lean forward and rub the dashboard? So instead of using a microfiber cloth and a spray or a wet wipe sort of thing to clean your dash, you're going to have to use a brush, because this thing is so abrasive, you're going to end up with more fluff on it after you've tried to clean it. But that rough surface of the recycled plastic bottles is actually on the side of the door as well, where you would rest your elbow. And the Mini's quite narrow when you're sat in there, especially for me with chunky shoulders. So as you lift your arm up or down to put it up, you're actually rubbing on the door slightly. In my old Mini, that's piano black that it touches, and it's smooth and it goes across it. You don't notice it. In the new Mini, it's that scratchy material, and yes, you feel it. You get the scratch as you go up, and as you rest your arm at the side, it's uncomfortable, and you don't want to leave it there. So no, the interior of the new Mini is not as nice as the old one. The seats aren't as comfortable, the driving position and your feet isn't as comfortable, and the interior materials aren't as luxurious and pleasant to be around. But yes, it's vegan friendly. So if that is your priority, then it's a better interior. For me, it's about, can I drive 200 miles and get out feeling fresh? And you can in the old Mini. I'm apprehensive of the new one because of that seating position for the feet and that step that's there. And also I know my arm isn't going to be comfortable at the side because of that scratchiness. I think they've made a mistake using that material, that scratchy material, down the side of the doors as well. And that's the theme across the Countryman, the Aceman and the new Mini, that they've done that. I think that's a bit of a mistake. It's just too scratchy. It's not pleasant to touch, and if you're in an area where you should touch it, then they shouldn't use that material. So no, the old Mini is better than the new Mini, but there are some things in there where the new one are better. Performance-wise, sorry, I haven't mentioned that. Performance-wise, the old Mini is as fast as the new one, but it doesn't feel it. The throttle response, I think, is even lighter. So even in eco mode, I think you've got a slightly better throttle response. It's more eager, and it just feels faster. And no, I didn't turn any of the, I turned the sounds on and then turned them instantly off. They were just awful. So yeah, if you're a boy racer and you like stupid Sinclair Spectrum sounds coming out of your game machine and you want that out of your Mini, that's great for you. But for me, it doesn't add anything to the experience at all. The actual speed and the way it drove was slightly different. So it did feel eager, and it did feel good. The performance is as good as the Mini, but the drivetrain works slightly different. On my Mini, it's very smooth in transition between whether it's moving and your input to the throttle. And the throttle is quite firm, and yeah, it's a hard throttle to push. So there's more resistance to it. And that means that you're in very fine control of what goes on. And that's the same with the steering. The steering is very stiff, and the steering inputs are very small to get what you want from it. The new Mini has gone lighter. The throttle is lighter. The response is lighter. The steering is slightly, it's only slightly, but it's enough to tell the difference. Now, I find that stiffness more sporty, more higher quality, and more engaging to drive. The fact they've gone slightly lighter on it, it's just slightly less engaging. But how the car pulls away is very different. You can sit there in a car parking space and tap your foot on the throttle like that, and you're actually moving the pedal, and the car doesn't move. So if you want to inch forward another 2 inches closer, that is not moving the car, and you have to go a bit more. But is going a bit more going to jerk the car forward a bit? And it does a little bit. That transition in the old Mini, that programming between the electronic throttle and the actual motor turning, you're actually getting motion, I think is better and smoother. And that's the same with regen as well. The regen of how it brakes and then how you come to a full stop, the brakes grab much more in the new Mini. In the old one, you come to a more progressed, smooth stop. That transition between the two is better. So I actually think that the drivetrain on how it feels and how you're interacting with it is better in the old one than the new one. But the new one has coasting, proper coasting. In the old Mini, you can coast by modulating your throttle just in the right place, but it doesn't actually feel like you're coasting because you've got some resistance on the throttle. In the new Mini, if you're not in drive mode, you can be in B mode for braking and have some regen. And there are some configuration changes for the amount of regen you get, but you have to go into the screen and fiddle around. So that's not ideal. The old Mini was better with a single switch for low regen or high regen. But there is coasting, proper coasting. So if you're going on a long trip and you're on a main dual carriageway and you don't want to take your foot off the throttle and suddenly be regenning, which is great for country roads, but when you're on motorways and stuff, you want to be able to take your foot off the throttle and it's still to keep going, and you get best efficiency from using zero regen and coasting in those situations. So the fact that it's got that is a positive over the old Mini. So there are some positives. If you upgrade and spend a lot of money for some of the packs, as I mentioned before, the parking maneuvers that are in there are fantastic. There's some great tech. The screen that it's on is great. It's fast and responsive. The sat nav is way better. It's got Android Auto as well as Apple CarPlay, which is progress and an update. So the media center is better, that I will say. But the climate controls, no knobs, no nothing. You have to go and press buttons. And if, like me, and you're going over a bumpy road and your hand's going like this, you can't press the buttons. So if you're B-road driving, those screen controls for changing climate control are a pain. So no, I like the old Mini better than the new one. I will not be buying one of the new Minis. And yeah, listeners Boston know that because they saw my reaction when I got in and drove the Countryman. Wow. Wow, the Countryman's a nice car. It's wider and I don't have to touch the scratchy stuff. The seat actually feels like it goes lower and the more sporty. The progression on the drivetrain and how you're interacting with the car is just not what I was thinking for an SUV. It feels like a Mini. There really is some Mini DNA in the Countryman, and I did not expect that. I thought it was just going to be a wobbly old boat. Yeah, the Countryman I found more engaging and more, I don't know, more comfortable to drive. I just enjoyed the drive better. I came away from that speechless because it surprised me, but also very happy with the drive. That's another thing to say about the new Mini. The new Mini going over bumps was interesting, comparing it to mine. As you hit a pothole or go over a bump in a rough road, on the way down into the bump, it crashes more than my Mini. But my Mini rebounds up more, so you're bouncing over bumps a little bit more, and you're really hanging on to the steering wheel going over these bumps. But it seemed to handle the bumps better. So you crash more on the bottom, but it doesn't rebound as much, and you keep going. So the new Mini was better in some respects over a bumpy road, but worse in other respects because it crashed a bit more. But that didn't happen at all in the Countryman. The Countryman was just the better car to drive. So there you go. There's my test drive, and that's why I am peed off with Robert Llewellyn's video review of the Mini Electric, because not only was he speaking a load of rubbish about ground up EV platforms being better and not giving specific reasons, he was actually wrong about the new Mini. There's quite a few aspects of the new Mini that are not as good as the new one. And if you want more range and that's what makes it better, then be cautious what you order and think about it carefully, because I don't think the new Mini in the smaller battery gives you any more range unless you start to not follow instructions and use all of the battery all of the time. And I don't know how the battery management system is going to work with that. I know with my Mini, the old one, you can go all the way down to 0 and nothing happens. It just drives, it carries on driving normally. What's beyond 0, I don't know. I've never done that, but I don't know what's going to happen with the new Mini and the GOM and how close to 0 you can get, etc. But it sounds like you have to take more care of it and avoid the limits. So I'd be cautious of that. So anyway, there's my rant. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. But yeah, Robert Llewellyn, do better in your reviews. Actually give us either an opinion or some facts about the car so we can believe the content rather than just telling us a load of things that people will believe, but they really shouldn't because you haven't backed it up with anything. Right, anyway, what's next? What can we talk about? There's your rant. That wasn't planned. I wasn't supposed to be doing that. It was very interesting, enjoyable to listen to. Oh, thank you very much. I just like the truth. I don't mind. I don't mind if a car or something is great, and tell us it's great, but tell us why. Tell us at least your opinion. And I don't mind if something's bad, and I get that with everything I review. I'll certainly give the truth all of the time, but I understand that my truth and my thoughts don't always suit everybody. So I'll try to get that across in a way as to why something is good and why I think it's good and better than something else. But if you've got reasons why it suits you better another way, well, that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely fine if Robert thinks the new Mini is better because he likes something about it, but it's just a shame he didn't say what it was. And I think the whole bandwagon of saying a ground-up built EV on a new platform is better for a better car, come on, you're smarter than that, aren't you? You guys are smarter than that. The whole purpose of a ground-up platform for EVs is to make more money and to make more profit from a platform that can be shared across multiple cars. It is not about making each of those cars better, because if a single platform is used for, let's say, the Mini, the Aceman and the Countryman, if that's the case, then surely it's going to suit one of those bigger cars better than it suits the other ones. And it begs the question, doesn't it, in this situation of the Mini, how the hell on this platform could this slim battery that goes underneath the car, how could it force the seat to go up? What have they done to do that? They've clearly got an issue that there's too much stuff in the way and they can't lower it anymore, so they've had to move something higher. Anyway, it's all a mystery to me, but I just think we need some common sense on some of these videos. And I don't like videos where people are appealing to dumb viewers, just believing everything they say, because we're not. We're intelligent, and I don't dumbing things down and just saying it's wonderful and not giving people the credit to work out if A, B, and C means it's brilliant for them. I don't like videos for the sake of it, where they treat people as idiots and then other people come along and they actually act that way, if you believe it all. And that is really, really sad. So please don't, because you're smarter than that. I know you are. Right, 54 minutes in. I need a coffee, and you shouldn't be watching that long either. I'm sure you've got better things to do than watch me, haven't you? Anyone just renewed their EV insurance? Mine's come down 50 quid. I'm very happy with my car insurance now, actually. It went up a fraction, but nothing like what some of the other people were saying. And I'm starting to get offers now of renewing for the next renewal that look interesting and better as well. So car insurance hopefully isn't going to be as bad as you think, unless you're in a Range Rover, unless you're in a Tesla or a Chinese car. That's going to be a big discussion, isn't it? Car parts. I said I was going to say goodbye, didn't I? But I'm not. I'm going to say one more thing, and that's the car part stuff. I saw this coming a long time ago, that manufacturers used to produce a car for a period of time, and in that time they were obligated to produce a parts bank of enough parts to repair the cars and look after them. And that's part of appealing to the insurance industry, because you can't repair a car under insurance if you haven't got the parts. And that's what's happening now. Cars are off the road for so long because you can't get a windscreen wiper blade. Yeah, I'm being excessive, but you know what I mean. It's because they're not producing the parts. What happens is they don't want to produce sufficient parts. They want to produce them when they're needed. So they wait until 2,000 of them are needed, and then they do a production run off them, because that's more efficient. So manufacturers are working on what's more efficient for them and sod everyone else. And that is not working very well, because it's now affecting the insurance industry. Because if you can't get all the parts, especially if you're a Chinese company, because of the imports and the delays, what's happening is we've got all these new cars coming along from all sorts of manufacturers, but they are not shipping a parts bank with those new cars. So the dealers, if there are dealers in your country, aren't here. Now, I don't mind that necessarily if they have a central parts bank in Europe and you can ship those parts from Europe or wherever the other place might be. But when I've questioned a few manufacturers, and I have done that, they have declined to answer what their policy is for parts. They do not want to share it. So I think you can just tell what's really going on. Car manufacturers are doing whatever it takes for them to stay profitable and for them to adjust to this huge transition of electric cars. And parts is a way they can save money by not producing them. So they're not doing it. So it does make you think about a UK produced car, because then you're likely to have UK parts more easily available. It is going to be part of the equation. Some of these new cars from other countries are attractive. But if, what's the matter, Cracker? What's the matter? But if the parts aren't available, then yeah, it's bad. And that's Korean cars, Chinese cars, wherever they might be from. What about Japanese cars? I don't know what Toyota and Mazda and stuff like that are doing, and whether they've got parts issues or not. But are they still made in the UK as well? I don't know. Anyway, parts seem to be the big issue, because then you've got huge car hire issues, or loaner cars, etc., if your car is off the road for a prolonged period of time. Anyway, I really will end it. I don't want to talk any more about EV insurance and those sort of things. But thank you so much for watching, all of you, and for listening to my rant. And yeah, I hope there's some interesting stuff in there. I ought to do more live streams just to have a chat. One day I'd like to try and do the end of month stats that I do with Solar. I'd like to do as a live screen chat, but I haven't got a way yet of being able to hold up a card and show you the stats on the graph. Talking about numbers is not the way to engage with the stats. It is graphs and the data that work with that. So that's why a lot of the videos you don't see me, you just see the graphs, because that's what makes more sense. But yeah, I would like to do more impromptu live stuff with more types of videos if it's possible, because there's no video editing, which is an absolute blessing. Anyway, thank you again for all watching. Take care, and see you again soon for more videos. Bye for now. Now I've got to try and find how to turn this off, haven't I? 59 minutes. Bye for now.